How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason, and in this video, we're going to be previewing Week 4 of the 2023 CFL season. We have a light week this week with only 3 games, but all 3 of these games, it just so happens, are very hard to predict this week, and let's get into it. So starting off on Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we have the 0-3 Edmonton Elks visiting the 0-2 Ottawa Redblacks, so somebody's getting their first win here. The 2 players I'm watching in this game are relatively easy because they're both making their first career CFL start at quarterback. For Edmonton, Jared Daggy, trying to get the pronunciation down. I think I got it right this time. Starting for the Edmonton Elks, came in late last week and showed some promise. Threw a pick 6, but also threw a couple of touchdowns. So we'll see if he can build on those couple of successful drives he had last week. Has a little bit of mobility, kind of a guy that can scramble around a little bit, but has a little bit of improvisational ability. So that's something to keep an eye out with him and what I've seen from him so far. And then you have Tyree Adams for the Ottawa Redblacks, who was brought in favor of Nick Arbuckle. Jeremiah Mazzoli still dealing with that injury that he suffered last season. So Adams, a little bit like Daggy, provides a little bit more play extension for that offense in Ottawa, and I'm expecting him to use his legs a lot this week, and I'm excited to see what happens in this game. Very hard game to predict because these are 2 quarterbacks making their first career CFL start, but just a gut feel. Ottawa has just been terrible at home, just like Edmonton. I mean, if Edmonton didn't have that long losing streak, Ottawa's would be getting a lot more attention. I think it's like at 12 games or something like that. And I think Edmonton will ultimately win this game 17-16. I mean, it really could go either way. I think these 2 teams are pretty close right now. Just really struggling at the bottom of the CFL standings. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Edmonton. A pretty good road team last year, won 4 of 9 games on the road after losing all their home games. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go with the Elks to win this one. Next, moving on to Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the 2-1 Winnipeg Blue Bombers visiting the 2-0 Montreal Alouettes, and I'm very excited for this game. The players that I'm watching are players I'm watching in this game. For Winnipeg, it's the entire offensive line. An uncharacteristically bad game from them last week. I think it was allowing 7 sacks, which is basically just unheard of from this unit over the past several years here. So I'm expecting them to have a big bounce back game against Montreal. But Montreal's defensive line has been playing well over the first couple of weeks of the season, so keep an eye on that. And then for the Montreal Alouettes, I'm going with defensive back Marc-Antoine Dequoy. Patrols that safety position, quickly becoming one of the best defensive backs in the CFL, in my opinion. Had a big breakout season last year. He's played very well to begin this year as well. So those are the players I'm watching in this game. This is a very hard game to predict because Montreal's come out hot out of the gate, looked great last week in Hamilton, also won Week 1 against Ottawa. So I mean, it's really difficult to pick this game, to pick against the Alouettes in this case, but I just don't see Winnipeg having 2 really poor performances in a row. I'm going to take Winnipeg to win 28-24. Again, really struggled with this pick this week, but ultimately I'm going to go with the Bombers to bounce back. Then skipping forward to Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the 3-0 BC Lions visiting the 2-0 Toronto Argonauts, and a lot of people calling this a potential Grey Cup preview here early in the season after what we saw BC do to Winnipeg last week, and obviously the hot start we've seen from Chad Kelly and the Argos to begin this season. I'm very excited for this game. Again, I went back and forth with who I was going to take, but the players I'm going to watch in this game, defensive end Matthew Betts for the BC Lions has been an absolute monster through the first 3 weeks of the season. I think he's the leading candidate for most outstanding Canadian in the CFL so far this season, and is really starting to fulfill his potential that he had when he was the 2nd overall pick a couple of years ago with Edmonton. And then for Toronto, I'm going with running back AJ Ouellette, who I think is the breakout running back of the CFL season this year. I mean, he's had the potential always the last couple of years, been around the team for a few years, but this year he's finally getting that opportunity to be that lead guy for this team. You saw it down the stretch in the Grey Cup last year. Such a great running back. I mean, he has that physicality, the shiftiness to go along with it, can catch the ball in the backfield. Just a player I really like. So I think these 2 guys are 2 of the biggest breakout stars of the CFL so far this season. I think they're going to play a big role in helping each of their teams win this game. But ultimately, in terms of my prediction for this game, I'm going to go with the Toronto Argonauts, actually, to win this game 21-20. Again, splitting hairs with who I was going to pick for this one. But being there in person a couple times I've been to BMO Field, very hard place for road teams to go in and win, despite, people making fun of their attendance all the time. It gets very loud there because people stomping on the stands and whatnot. So I think that Toronto with their defense probably limits what Vernon Adams can do a little bit. I mean, you can't really keep them completely under wraps, but I think they'll be able to slow them down a bit in this game. And then I think Chad Kelly, I think with AJ Ouellette leaning on that running game, I think they'll finally be able to break through that BC defense for a couple of touchdowns. BC coming off that big statement win in Winnipeg last week. They're due for a little bit of a letdown, I think, coming off that emotional high. So ultimately, I'm going to go with the Argos to win this game 21-20. So that's just a preview for week 4 of the 2023 CFL season. Be sure to let me know your picks down below. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.